Carlotta is one of the most popular characters in all of Wuthering Waves, and she is coming back in the second half of the version 2.3 update. However, after the recent reveal of Carlotha's gameplay, a lot of people are becoming more and more insecure about pulling for Carlotta. So that's what this video is about. This is going to be Carlotta's biggest pros and cons. By far the biggest pro in Carlotta's favor is that she has one of the highest damage outputs in the entire game. When we are talking about damage output, mostly I look at calculations of DPS, and when we look at pure calculations, Carlotta is a contender for the highest DPS in the entire game, with the only competition being Zani. We all know how much Zani is capable of doing, considering the fact that she released recently, and the fact that Carlotta is arguably even better than Zani should show off just how good Carlotta is as a character. Her damage output is just ridiculous, and for the longest time, she was the #1 reigning queen of tower. Sure, she got some competition in the form of Phoebe, but she was still the one clearing the fastest on average on most people's accounts. And not much of that has really changed. Carlotta is still one of the fastest clearing characters in all of Tower of Adversity, and just has an incredible amount of damage. Another big pro that Carlotta has in her favor is the fact that not only is she the Queen of Tower, she is also one of the strongest characters for the Whimpering Wastes game mode. Whimpering Wastes is a game mode that a lot of people have struggled with due to the fact that the requirements for being good in WhiWa are stricter than those of Tower. Not only do you need damage output, you need that damage output to be consistent and also have a good amount of AoE. However, Carlotta is so powerful that she manages to look at these rules and completely smash them. On the surface, she is an incredibly single target focused character who puts a lot of her eggs into her ultimate's basket. So she really should not be as good in Whimpering Wastes as she is. But, you know, she really just can't help it. She is incredible in WhiWa anyway. Most of her AoE is centered into her skill, her forte heavy attack, and her ultimate's activation. As you can see, these are all things she does early on in her rotation, and are thus perfect for taking care of the big waves of smaller enemies. But then when you get to her ult, chances are high you're already fighting the elites. And for the elites, all you have to do is position yourself in a way to where the death knells and fatal finale will hit all of the elites, and bam, you're wasting none of Carlotta's immense damage output, meaning that even in AoE content, this character can be an absolute beast. Another very big thing in Carlotta's favor is that she is incredibly easy to utilize. Sure, she may have a lot of words in her kit that can be confusing to you, but once you learn her core rotation, you understand her completely. You are locked in. This character has a lot of mechanics, from her substance forte bar, to the crystal from her forte, to the fact that her ultimate gets rid of all of her forte and only has 4 hits. You'd really think this character should be harder to master with just how much there's going on. But there is one very easy rotation that is incredibly easy to repeat, and just has a lot of inputs that are incredibly self-explanatory. All you have to do is use your double skill before you go into your support, then do all your support nonsense, Carlotta's intro, double skill, heavy attack, use your ult, and do double skill again. It's incredibly easy once you have it down for the first time, and it's insanely repeatable. And because Carlotta is very movement heavy, this rotation is incredibly easy to repeat over and over again, because there's an incredibly low chance that enemies are going to interrupt you. Speaking of which, another big advantage to Carlotta is the fact that she is incredibly ranged. You see, Carlotta is a gun character, and she really makes it known in her kit. Almost every single one of her abilities are able to be used from a large range, making it so Carlotta is an incredibly safe character to play, even on the most aggressive and annoying of bosses. Bosses that most people struggle with are either bosses that are going to be incredibly aggressive and constantly trying to hit you, or the bosses that run away and teleport all around the place. But because Carlotta is an auto-aim character with a lot of range, not only is she capable of running away from the danger that an aggressive boss poses, she's also able to lock onto the teleporting enemies basically instantly. This is why Carlotta is so incredibly powerful against the Tempest and Thundering Mephis. These are some of the most annoying bosses in the entire game, and Carlotta makes them look like an absolute joke. Her being able to just auto-lock onto enemies is an incredibly valuable trait, because it means that you'll never have to chase an enemy again, which is enhanced even further by the sheer amount of range this character has. Another thing in Carlotta's favor is the fact that she has a lot of strong team options. Carlotta is not just locked to Zhezha, as she was back during her release, and even during her release, she had enough sheer power to just not require the Zhezha. Zhezha on release was by far the best teammate, but even then, we had Sanhua, Yangying, and Taocha to be viable alternatives. This still holds true. Yangying, Sanhua, and Taocha are still good teammates to run with your Carlotta, but there have been 2 extra teammates added to the roster that Carlotta is capable to benefit off of incredibly well, being Brant and Cantarella. Both of them have 25% skill damage amplification in their ultra skills, much like Zhezha's. And because almost all of Carlotta's damage counts as skill damage, this is an incredibly valuable buff to give. It's the exact reason why Taocha is good, despite her low damage output with her high field time. So the fact that we have new 5-star skill buffers is a very nice addition to Carlotta's support roster, especially when we start looking at what these characters do. Primarily Brant. Brant has a large amount of damage output himself, with a very large chunk of it being in a good AoE. Meaning that even if you are doing AoE content and you are not good enough at Carlotta to position yourself correctly, Brant is capable of dealing a huge amount of damage to the enemies in an AoE scenario, which is very nice to see. He also is capable of shielding your party and healing them just for that extra bit of safety. However, he does trade this for a longer rotation than most sub-DPS characters. Cantarella also shares some of these characteristics, being able to heal your allies, as well as having good damage herself. But a benefit that she has over Brant is that she is capable of running the Empyrean Anthem set. Empyrean Anthem is a set that is incredibly good at buffing your on-field DPS character, and with Carlotta's high damage output, being able to buff her is incredibly valuable. So despite it not being as good as Brant or Zhezha, Cantarella is still a character that you are capable of running with your Carlotta. If I had to mention a negative for Carlotta, which, well, it's kinda hard to do, I would have to say that Carlotta's AoE is a lot poorer than most recent DPS characters. A majority of Carlotta's damage is coming from her ultimate, aka her ultimate's activation, the 4 death knells, and then finally the fatal finale. These around 5 seconds of field time are going to be the majority of Carlotta's damage output, and a lot of it is just in a straight line with very little AoE. This means that it's going to be a bit harder to utilize your Carlotta in content that's incredibly AoE demanding. While I did say earlier that despite this fact Carlotta is still incredible in Whimpering Wastes, there is still AoE content outside of Whimpering Wastes, primarily in events and the 1000 Gateways roguelike event, meaning that if you're trying to use your Carlotta in a more casual setting, you should be aware of the fact that she is not capable of dealing with these event stages as a true AoE carry would, like Phoebe or Camellia. But this is an insane nitpick. She's still incredibly good in Whimpering Wastes, which is where most AoE content is going to be coming from. So that's my thoughts on Carlotta. What do you think about her? I think that to this day she is still a contender for best DPS in the entire game. Her value has only gone up over time, and while she is getting more and more competition in the DPS niche, she is still going to be very powerful even if you pull her now. Be sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel, and if you have any questions, be sure to join my Discord, which is linked down below. I'm pretty active in there, so if you have any questions, there's a pretty good chance I'll answer them if you ask them in my Discord server. But that'll be all from me. Peace.